Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I'm Tom Betts, your host. This is season 3, episode 9, number 74. I think we've got a pretty interesting show for you this week. We're going to continue our history of the spaghetti western with a film called The Return of Pancho Villa. It's actually the first revolutionary spaghetti western. Whatever became of, I'm going to talk about Peter Tevis, singer and composer. Who are those guys? Jose Jaspe or Jaspee, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Film of the week is The Brute and the Beast with Franco Nero and George Hilton. CD of the week is Killer Adios / Payment in Blood's a double. Autograph of the week, book of the week. I've got a bunch of posters from the Jose Jaspe films. And we'll finish up with the weekly news. So let's get started. Our continuing saga on the history of the spaghetti western. This week it's Lo Sono il Capataz, it's Italian title. Also Ritorno il Capataz. And in English it's translated into I'm the Capataz. The other title is The Return of Pancho Villa. This is a 1950 Italian film production from Jolly Film. Jolly Film was initially involved with the Fistful of Dollars and some of the early spaghetti westerns, so they're starting almost 15 years earlier. Director is Giorgio Simonelli. He was a director during the golden age of the spaghetti western, so he should be familiar. Screenplay, one of the Andriano Bolzoni, Marcello Marchesi, and Vittorio Metz. Cinematography should be familiar with this name, Antonio Delacoli. The music is by Armando Fragna and Felice Montagnini. Not familiar with either one of those, so they must have been one of their only spaghetti westerns that they were involved in. Cast includes Ugo Cioni or Rosalito Villa, played by Renato Rascal, Moira, played by Marilyn Buford, Rosa de Fuego, Silvana Pompanini, Marasmus, Luigi Pavis, he's a spaghetti regular. Also, some other spaghetti western regular names. Puchero, played by Vittorio Ducci. Also, the secretary is Sofia Cicola. I want you to remember that name and think about who that might be, because you probably don't know her under that name. Again, Sofia Cicola. Bartender is Giovanni Patrisi, another spaghetti western regular. And some subordinate roles, Angelo Desi and Franco Pesci, old friend Dusty from the Sartana films. The story goes like this. Due to his short stature, Ugo Cioni, played by Renato Rascal, cannot find a job. One day, due to a series of circumstances, he is mistaken for the famous C6, a dangerous revolutionary agent, and transported together with his friend Erasmus, played by Luigi Pavis, to Mexico. Here, Ugo Cioni, who took the name of Rosalito Villa, assumes command of the revolutionary troops which occupy the capital and settles himself in as the dictator. However, he is only a puppet in the hands of the government ministers who govern with terrorist methods. Villa believes that the people adore him, but one day he is forced to realize the real situation. The people actually hate him. The rebels, led by Rosa de Fuego, played by Silvana Pompanini, want to kill him. To save him, Erasmus makes the people believe that Rosalito is not Rosalito, but his twin brother Pancho, who has come to kill the tyrant. Imprisoned under the name of Pancho, Rosalito, through a secret passage, passes from the prison to his rooms and vice versa. Under the guise of Pancho, he puts himself at the head of the insurgents enters the government building, arrests the ministers, and pretends to kill Rosalito. That is really a mannequin. Acclaimed liberator, Pancho renounces power to live next to Rosa de Fuego, who loves him. As I said before, this is the first revolutionary spaghetti western and another Italian comedy parody of the 1950 American westerns. Remember, after World War II, the Italian market was flooded with westerns from the States. They didn't get to see any American films during the war. So as soon as the war was over and they were established during the early 50s, late 40s, all these American films that were backlogged came in. So they got to see a ton of westerns that they weren't subjected to before during the war. And most of the time, they didn't make regular westerns. They just made parody of the American films, taking a laughable stance on the American Western. Okay, we'll get into a few of the biographies of the main players. This one is Renato Rascal, whose stage name was Renato Ranucci, pronounced Ranuti. He was born on April 27, 1912, and was an Italian film actor, singer, and songwriter. Renato appeared in 50 films between 1942 and 1972. He represented Italy in the Eurovision Song Contest in 1960 with the song Romantica, which placed eighth out of 13 entries. Rassel died in Rome on January 2nd, 1991. Silvana Pompanini was born on September 25th, 1925. She was an Italian film actress, director, and singer. She caused a sensation when she took part in the 1946 Miss Italy contest, and the following year she started her movie career. Her original plans were to be an opera singer, but that never materialized. Silvana died in Rome on January 6, 2016. Then we move along to Erasmus, who is played by Luigi Tevis, and he was born in Asti, Italy on October 25th, 1897. He was the brother of actor Nino Tevis. At 19, he started his career as a silent film actor, then moved to the theater. Later on in his career, he became a voice actor and was the official Italian voice of Fernando Sancho. Tevis died at the age of 73 in Rome on December 13th, 1969. Next, we move on to Marilyn Buford. This is sort of an oddity. Marilyn was born in Detroit, Michigan on January 30th, 1925. In 1946, she was crowned Miss America. She went on to appear in several minor films in the 1950s, as well as several foreign language films. Marilyn died in Austin, Texas on March 27, 1990. Her son, Nick Barbaro, is the publisher of the Austin Chronicle and co-founder of South by Southwest. Remember, I asked you to see if you could remember or think who actually Sophia Sikola is? Well, she's better known by her stage name, Sophia Loren. She pops up the following year under her name as her real name as Conchita in The Dream of Zorro. So actually, Sophia Loren appeared in two early spaghetti westerns. Loren was also to appear in a 1966 film, Calamity Jane, but the film was never made. Next, we want to talk about whatever became of, and I thought we'd switch from actors to a well-known singer, composer, songwriter named Peter Tevis. Peter Edward Sanders Tevis was sorry that I forgot we had an intro for whatever became of. Anyways, Peter Edward Sanders Tevis was born February 10th, 1937 in Santa Barbara, California. He studied electronics in college, but dropped out when he received a scholarship to study acting in Italy under acting coach Lee Strasberg. Tevis would earn a living appearing in photoromancy magazines, singing and performing in a lassoing cowboy novelty act on variety shows and as a crooner. He became a small-time celebrity singing American folk ballads, cowboy songs, and Western movie themes for enthusiastic Italian audiences. He had a traveling concert show as well as several hit singles. In 1962, he met Ennio Morricone and convinced Ennio to arrange and orchestrate a song he had called Pastures of Plenty, which was actually written by Woody Guthrie in 1947. Peter released a 1965 album, Impugno di West, which was a collection of well-known Western ballads. He referred to himself as the Italian Frankie Lane. A few years later, Sergio Leone wanted Morricone to score his up-and-coming Western called A Fistful of Dollars. Legend has it Morricone wrote some music which Leone hated. Morricone then played him his old single, Pastures of Plenty. Leone wanted this music, but with a new melody over the top. The rest is film music history. Peter pretty much got screwed and confronted Morricone later, who offered him a $500 settlement, which he accepted. That early collaboration with Ennio is what created the sound that the world would now associate with spaghetti westerns, and with a school of about 36 composers who worked in Italian films, from the peplum through the westerns, through giallos and the horror films. As a trivia, Tevis was also credited with singing the theme song of the animated television series Underdog in 1960s. Tevis became homesick for America and came back to the States at the end of the decade. Here he married actress Tiffany Bowling from 1969 to 1970 and produced an album for her. Then Peter started his own record company called Eagle Records in 1974. He then renamed it Pet Records after his own name, Peter Edward Tevis, in the early 1980s. These albums were aimed for pet owners with such releases as How to Teach Your Bird to Sing and Make Your Bird a Star, which contained famous film one-liners such as Howdy Partner, You Dirty Rat, Come Up and See Me Sometime, and Here's Looking at You, Kid. His bestseller was Train Your Bird to Talk, which earned him a gold record after the album had sold more than 500,000 copies. He also released a Train Your Puppy Right album. In 1984, Peter co-founded Money Records with Val Messmer, a Hollywood entrepreneur. Let me flip this page real quick. In his later years, Peter spent time living in the Hollywood Hills, Thailand, and the state of Washington. Sadly, he contracted Parkinson's disease and lost his ability to sing. Peter Tevis died on Mercer Island, Washington, on September 13th, 2006. I tried to contact him late in his career, but my letter arrived after he had passed away. I did get a reply from his wife, but was crushed to know that I had missed him by a few weeks. I also want to thank Sarah Vista and Roland Harris for the material which I got from her Sunday Saloon interview or program that she produced a few months ago, where she really got involved with Peter Tevis. So thank you very much. Peter was involved in singing the main themes for 7 spaghetti westerns. They are A Bullet and Flesh, 1964, he sings A Western Man. Bullets Don't Argue, 64, sings Lonesome Billy. The Last Gun, 1964, with Cameron Mitchell, sings Young Jim Hart. A Coffin for the Sheriff with Anthony Steffen. He sings Alone and Angry Man. The Ruthless Code of the Gringo, 65, sings A Man Must Fight. And then again, The Man Must Fight was used in $7 to Kill, which is also Anthony Steffen. And his last song was Quinto Fighting Proud in 1969, and he sings the song Quinto. This CD of Impugno del West is available on Amazon and a few other sites. If you get a chance, pick it up. It's got all of his singles. And I also picked up on eBay a copy of his Train Your Bird to Talk, just for collectors who want to get involved with collecting spaghetti western tracks or people involved in it. So that's what we have on Peter Tevis. Next are Who Are Those Guys? And this week, by request, I'm going to talk about Jose Jaspe, or as Jose Jaspe, as I called him. Jose Jaspe Rivas was born in A Coruña, Galicia, Spain on August 10, 1906. He was a Spanish character actor whose film career spanned from 1941 until his death 33 years later, and over 125 films, 23 of which were spaghetti westerns. Jose began his acting career as a child in the theater. In the 1930s, he met Spanish actress Mercedes Vecino, 10 years his junior, who he married in Valladolid on the 20th of September 1939. He began his film career playing supporting roles in a succession of films where his wife was the star. After they separated around 1945, though never divorced since that was illegal in Spain at the time, Jose established himself as a reliable supporting character actor in everything from historical dramas to slapstick comedies. Around 1953, Jose relocated to Italy, living in Rome in the San Giovanni neighborhood, where he found steady work in the booming film industry for the next decade. After he moved back to Spain around 1964, he became a regular feature in the spaghetti western genre and continued to work in productions shot all over Europe until his death. Jaspee died following surgery for cancer at the age of 67 in Becerril de la Sierra, Spain on June 5, 1974, where he is buried and has a square named in his honor. Some of Jaspee's most prominent films were The Relentless Four in 1965. He plays the role of Baxter. El Rojo with Richard Harrison, 66. He plays Hank or Jose Garibaldi. Stranger in Paso Bravo with Anthony Stephan, 1966, plays Paquito Santa Maria. He's also in Killer Adios in 68 with Peter Lee Lawrence, plays Bob Elliott. Django Defies Sartana in 1970, plays Houston. Red Sun, you catch him real quick, 1971, he's a train engineer. On Man Called Noon, he's got a pretty big role in that one. In 1973, plays Henniker. So that's Jose Jaspee. If any of you have requests on who you want to see, either who are those guys or whatever became of, leave me a message in the Spaghetti Western database or on the Spaghetti Western podcast site on Facebook, or you can contact me at Tom Betts on Spaghetti Western. On Facebook, and leave a message there, and I'll be glad to see what I can do. Film of the week. Thought this week we'd cover The Brute and the Beast. Okay, the Italian title is Le Culte Cantarona, Le Morte e Fu Tempo di Massacro, or Tempo di Massacro, which in English there's several alternate titles. Django, his hymn book was The Cult. How about Cult Concert, which was the UK title. Massacre Time, which most of us know it by. Time for a Massacre, and The Brute and the Beast, which was the US title release. This is a 66 Italian-Spanish co-production. Director is the great Lucio Fulci, well known for his horror films. Story is by Fernando De Leo and Vincenzo Dell'Aquila, both spaghetti regular writers. Screenplay by Fernando De Leo. Cinematography by Riccardo Palatini, another spaghetti western regular. Music is by Lalo Gori, and the main theme song is A Man Alone, sung by Sergio Endrigo. The main actors in this are Franco Nero, who plays Tom Corbett or Django. George Hilton plays Jeff Slim Corbett. Nino Castronuovo plays Jason Scott Jr. or Jonah or just Jr. Rena Franchetti plays Mercedes, which is Hilton and Nero's mother. John McDouglas plays Jason Scott Sr. A couple of other names you might be familiar with. Carradine is played by John Bartha. Scott's henchman, Sal Borghese, Tio Severini. Also, Romano Pupo. Romano played Lee Van Cleef's double in all of his westerns. Rocco Lero, another famous uh, Italian stuntman. Tom Pileggi plays Murphy Murray, and Franco Gula plays Jeremiah Farber. The story goes as such. Tom Corbett, played by Franco Nero, is asked by a friend of the family to come home. The family farm is now property of the Scott family, and Tom's brother Jeff, played by George Hilton, has become an alcoholic. Behind all this is Scott Jr., played by Nino Castronuovo, a bullwhip wielding psychopath. Jeff seems amused even when Tom is brutally tortured by Jr., but when the Indian woman who has raised him and Tom is killed, he decides to take up his arms and side with his brother during the final shootout. The great horror director Lucio Fulci directs this action-packed spaghetti with plenty of brutality and violence. All of this sets the stage for a dramatic conclusion when Junior finally realizes he chose to pick on the wrong man, Tom Corbett, and when his brother Jeff comes out of his drunken stupor, they join together to become an unbeatable duo, complementing each other with their fighting prowess with pistols. This has also one of the best vocals of the genre, which starts the film off perfectly, and the score by Lalo Gori is one of his best. Excellent photography by Riccardo Palatini helps, and the barroom brawl is a must-see. The film usually isn't mentioned in top 10 lists, but maybe needs to be revisited. It's available on the US on Blu-ray from Wild East, released in 2013. Sinister Cinema in 2008, US Digital World Video, and in a 6-film package from TCG Direct in 2013. I'd pick up the Wild East copy if I were you. Now we'll talk a little bit about the actors in the film. First one, of course, is Franco Nero. We all know him. He was born Francesco Clementi Giuseppe Sparanero on November 23rd, 1941. He's an international film star, producer, and director. Jay and I did an entire episode on him, number 31. We also have George Hilton, who was born Jorge Gil Acosta y Lara on July 16, 1934 in Montevideo, Uruguay. He was one of the top stars in spaghetti westerns. He died on July 28, 2019 in Rome, and Jay and I did an entire episode on him too with author Daniel Camargo. It's episode number 19. Also starring in this film was Nino Castronuovo, who was born Francesco Castronuovo on October 28, 1936 in Lecco, Italy. He was an Italian actor of film, stage, and television. He's best known for his starring role as Guy Faucher in the French musical film The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Castronuovo died in Rome on September 6 last year, 2021. Nina Franchini, who plays their mother, Franco Nero and George Hilton's mother, was born on December 23rd, 1907 in Naples, Italy. She was an Italian film actress who appeared in 50 films between 1932 and 1990. She died in Formello, Italy on August 18, 2010. And also John Bartha. John Bartha was born Janos Bartha in Budapest, Hungary in 1920. The former film actor appeared primarily in spaghetti westerns in the 60s and 70s. He's probably best remembered for his role as pictured as the sheriff who pays the first reward for Tuco in Sergio Leone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He appeared in nearly 80 films between 1951 and 1981. He came to Italy from Hungary with his good friend, another spaghetti regular, Tom Pileggi. And Tom's in this film with him in The Brute and the Beast. Okay. So now we want to move on to CD of the week. And the CD of the week is Killer Adios and 7 Winchesters for a massacre. Okay. CD of the week is Killer Adios / 7 Winchesters for a massacre. We also know it as Payment in Blood. The composers are Claudio Tolino and Francesco De Masi. Director is Primo Zeglio. The first one stars Peter Lee Lawrence, Armando Calvo, and Marisa Salinas. Payment in Blood, as we know, Guy Madison, Ed Burns, and Louise Barrett. This is on the Screen Tracks label out of Italy. It's CDST 329. It's mono. Has 23 total tracks and a total listing time of 68 minutes. And an extra includes a 4-page leaflet. It's a limited edition of only 2,000 copies, so it's a little bit hard to find these days. But that's our CD of the week. Now we want to get into the book of the week. This is Sera una volta in Italiana. It's by Christopher Frayling, and it's basically the Italian edition of his Sergio Leone exhibit at the Autry Museum, which he had a few more exhibits in Italy than he did over here in the States, because the story is the Autry didn't want to bring certain material over here. They didn't want to bring the Coffin of the Spirits or the buckboard from Once Upon a Time in the West, because they thought it may contain wormwood, which may have spread to other exhibits they had at the Autry, so they refused to let him bring these over. But they do pop up in the Italian exhibit, so if you can find it, it's well worth getting. A lot of great pictures in this. Okay, now move on to Autograph of the Week. Okay, Autograph of the Week is the great Jack Elam from Once Upon a Time in the West. This is a stage photo. It's taken before the fly lands on his face and crawls all over. The story is on that they couldn't get a fly to land, so they put, I've heard sugar. I've heard they put watermelon juice on his face to get the fly to land, but it worked. Okay, now we're going to move on to Tom's poster attic. I've got a bunch of posters from Jose Jaspee films. Okay. A lot of these are Belgium posters, so they won't take up a lot of space on screen. We can see them pretty quickly. This one is the Implacable 3, Belgium poster. As you can see, they've marked up there the screening times and the dates. Next one is Sign of the Coyote. Sign of the Coyote is much like a Zorro film. As you can see, Piero Lully, Fred Cannon, and Maria Luz, Belgium poster. Then I have The Son of Jesse James, Robert Hundar, Belgium poster. The Relentless Four, the Adam West poster, Belgium, and they don't even picture him. They just picture the Relentless Four that are after him. Okay. This one is the Ringo the Lone Rider, another Belgium poster. Peter Martel. Taste of Vengeance, Johnny Garco, another Belgian poster. Okay, this one's big. This is another dollar for the McGregors. And it's in pretty bad shape. It's pretty delicate, so bear with me a second. In fact, I'm not even going to open it up. It's all starting to rip. That's how old they are. Okay, this one is a long live your death. It's a German poster. Franco Nero, Eli Wallach. Of course, he was in Red Sun. And this is the American poster. Now, this one is not a poster as far as, it's more of a press book. But Antonio Sabato. And then, of course, I have the American, A Man Called Noon. And that will do it for Posters of the Week, as we call it, Tom's Poster Attic. And now we'll move on to the weekly news. Okay, the weekly news. For once, we don't have any deaths to report, so no Boot Hill. Anyway, there is a new DVD release of Gio La Testa, which we know as Duck You Sucker. It's been released by Eagle out of Italy. Consists of one disc in Italian, and it was released on February 24th, 2022, this year. The other one that was released this week is a 2-disc CD release by Lala, Fox Music and 20th Century Fox of 1969's 100 Rifles, along with 1964's Rio Conchos. It's now available. I don't know the exact release date. It's on Redman, LL CD 1458. Music was composed by Jerry Goldsmith. The double CD contains 56 tracks, total of 58 minutes and 17 seconds. 100 Rifles was directed by Tom Grease and starred Burt Reynolds, Jim Brown, and Raquel Welch, and Fernando Lamos. Rio Conchos was directed by Gordon Douglas and starred John Wayne, Stuart Whitman, and Richard Boone. This release is limited to 2,000 copies. And last but not least, I want to mention that Jay Jennings, the Spaghetti Westerns autograph exhibit was launched today. And Jay has posted a video that he did launching it. It will be on YouTube later today. And there's a website at the end that Jay shows that you can go to see his exhibits. There it is right there, pops up. So go and check out his collection. He's added several since the ones we showed when we were doing the show together. He's added some new additions. I saw Edmund Purdom on there, which I hadn't seen before. And he did a great job of putting the pictures and matting them with the autographs either on the picture or mounted just below. So that will wrap up this week's edition of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. Hope to see you next week. Have a great week. And as I always say, adios, amigos.